Hello, I'm Speculative Dude. Welcome back to Speculative Dude Reviews. It's been a while, I know, but I appreciate those of you who watched my videos before. And I know that over time things have gotten a little crazy in my life, but I want to thank the people that have been supporting me and all my friends for watching still. Now, today I'm going to look at a movie that is... while it was successful, in the theater, it also got a lot of disdain from fans. And, specifically, I'm talking about fans of Marvel's X-Men series. Now, whether you want to say that any of the movies are in continuity, which, I'll be honest, using the word continuity on any of the movies that are coming out is a pretty hopeless act, in my opinion. They just aren't. Whether it's as good as I think X-Men First Class was, they didn't use the First Class of X-Men. As entertaining, in my opinion, despite the fan outrage at X-Men 3, I did enjoy it, and despite plenty of its flaws, I even enjoyed Wolverine. And well, let's just say that so many fans have accused me, because I said I actually enjoyed it, accused me of not being being neither a comic book fan nor a comic book geek. And if anyone knows me, I can geek out on these things better than most people. Now, for those of you who don't know, Wolverine is the adamantium claw, almost anti-hero of the X-Men. He is a hero. He does have his own sense of justice, but he has so many problems with his past. His memories are gone. He's been manipulated throughout his life. He's really a great character to use. It was in a movie. And this X-Men Origins Wolverine was supposed to showcase how he became what he is, at least as far as the X-Men movies are concerned. I'll be honest, I'm going to leave some of the comic book continuity out just because it ends up being more confusing than anything else. And when it comes to certain points, I will contest them because honestly, there are some things that I really didn't... Some changes I didn't mind. Other changes were pointless. And then there were a couple of changes that I really hated. But, as I said, I'll start over from the beginning. Now, in the X-Men movies, Hugh Jackman, in my opinion, did probably a better job with his character than any of the other actors and actresses did. And with the exception of Nightcrawler, and forgive me for not being able to think of his name right now off the top of my head, I thought he did good. In fact, I think he did excellent. Patrick Stewart did an admirable job as Professor Xavier, if not awesome. But Hugh Jackman, really, there was something about him that really put the character over the top. At least as far as, this is what I thought Wolverine should be like in a movie. There were rumors that if X-Men 2 did well at the box office, that they would be doing a Wolverine standalone. Despite, honestly, all three X-Men movies kind of focusing on him more than anybody else. But they waited until they put out the third X-Men movie before giving him his proper prequel, I guess you could say. Now, it starts out in... let me restart that in that having studied Wolverine's backstory through Marvel, I really enjoyed some of the things that they put in there that were, I guess you could say, very subtle, that most the casual fan wouldn't know. Some of them they would, but for example, the most obvious one being that in the movies they didn't really make a big deal about Wolverine being Canadian, and while they don't make a big deal about it here, in the comic books it's very pronounced. Here it does show him. He was born in Canada. He fought in numerous wars. And a lot of people don't know how many Canadians actually fought during the Civil War, fought for the Union. And so namely because there was huge border disputes over where the borders of the United States and Canada were. But I'll put that aside. But they really showcased a lot of things in here from his past. For example, everything he'd gone through. Now, in Wolverine's actual backstory, Sabretooth is not his brother. He's not his clone. He's not anything. They're not even related, other than having a similar genetic mutation which allows them to heal from seemingly any injury. And in doing that, it's very interesting because you do have to wonder why they have this similarity. But in the movie, they kind of take it a new direction in that, or perhaps not a new direction, but at least they take it to a very simple direction that, hey, they're brothers. That's why they have a similar mutation. I can both understand why they did this for movie reasons and can be annoyed at the same time. It does set up a rivalry of sorts between the two, as you see Wolverine, or as you see Sabretooth, I should say, getting more aggressive and, spiteful and, filled with hate and rage and just being willing to do whatever he wants, kill whoever he wants, it doesn't matter to him. Versus, Wolverine, who has a bit of a code of honor, in a way. He doesn't, while he is more than willing to kill, he's, in his mind, he has to justify it. In war, if you're fighting an enemy, okay, they're trying to kill you, he'll kill them. But, versus Sabretooth, who's, in one scene during the Vietnam War, shows him killing, his own, other people in his platoon. And, and whereas when Wolverine tries to stop him, they're both surrounded, and even Wolverine decides, he's going to take his brother's side. So it does set up an interesting dynamic between the characters, but it doesn't, in my mind, go to really explain why, in the comic books, there's so much genuine hatred between the characters. Now, there is a lot of that has been explained over the last few years in the comic book, which I won't go into, but I really didn't like them just being made out to be brothers. It was disappointing. I thought the introduction of Stryker as the one who created the adamantium skeleton for Wolverine, I thought that was a good way to explain it. Maybe not the best, but it was a little bit simplistic as far as, once again, as far as the comic book goes. He really wasn't related at all. The character of Stryker was in a completely different situation, but having introduced him in X-Men 2 the way they did, I can understand why they used him the way they did in Wolverine's movie. Being the one who kind of manipulates things so that Wolverine wants this adamantium skeleton, which is basically their experiment to see if even he can live through having it implanted in his body. Because, honestly, they're not sure. But they know with his healing factor, he has the best chance of living through the experiment, as well as using his genetic information to create their other one. Their other soldier, I should say. I really hate what they did with that, trying to say that that was Deadpool. No. Now, I know some people have hated Ryan Reynolds' character as Deadpool. I didn't mind him in the beginning, before he was Deadpool, or before they made him Deadpool, when he was just Wade. He was sarcastic, he was a character who was good with a blade, had no qualms about killing people, and, they called him Merc with a Mouth for a reason. He really didn't give a crap. He even says it after coming out of the elevator, killing everyone. He just simply says, "Okay, people were dead." That really, in my mind, was pretty close to Deadpool. What they did later in the movie, trying to imprint, Wolverine's DNA and that all onto him to create the Deadpool. No, that that was awful. It was something that should have been thrown out. Never, it was a terrible idea from beginning to end. I did like that they showed his past with Silver Fox and how what happened to her changed him and made him, set him off. So many times in his life, something will happen that will set off his rage to go, and basically it's always to manipulate him in some way. Unfortunately, I did not like how there was three things I should say, with her that I absolutely loathed. She was never a mutant. No, she wasn't. She was a woman. She was a woman who he loved dearly. And he started his campaign of revenge, if you will, or whatever, however you want to call it, was when Sabretooth did in fact kill her. She wasn't, knocked out by drugged, whatever. No, she was dead. In the comic book, she was murdered. Trying to say that she was part of the whole situation to manipulate him, no. That was a completely moot point. And also her being alive leads to point 3, in that they show Emma Frost as her younger sister. What? That was so far out of left field. I know they said that the only reason she was helping them was because her sister was being held by Stryker, but it was a terrible idea. It made no sense whatsoever. Not to mention, in X-Men First Class, which takes place roughly 10 years before Wolverine's movie, why is she an adult? It just throws way too many questions up there, especially when they claimed they were working on continuity. It was awful. That's one of the things I loathed about it. One of the things I thought did work was, as cheesy as it was, the introduction of Gambit, I really did like. It's a lot of people were waiting for Gambit's introduction into these movies, hoping that he would, come along. And I wish his role had been a little bit larger, but it was decent. You got to see him through the cards. He blasts Wolverine through a wall. That's good. And while the role of Will.i.am probably could have been played by any actor, a lot of people have hated it because it was Will.i.am. I can't fault him for the role he did. He did an okay job. Nothing spectacular. But I thought adding the character that he played, it was okay. He was a teleporter who, I thought he did decent. A lot of people say, oh, it was terrible. No, he wasn't terrible. Was he great? No. But he wasn't bad. It was an okay introduction. The Blob. Wow, that was kind of honestly a funny bit, adding Frank Dukes in there. He, they have them in Wolverine, Sabretooth, Wade Wilson. I won't refer to him as Deadpool because he wasn't. But Wade in there, Duke, and all in this mercenary group. Before the Blob becomes the Blob. And I thought it was rather hilarious how they said, after everything shut down, he developed an eating problem. It was like, wow, that's, it's one of those almost uncomfortable, but at the same time, still kind of funny, as weird as that sounds. But, their whole situation was, like I said, the introduction of the characters was alright. I never thought that I never thought that they would use Patrick Stewart at the end of this movie the way they did. And just, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think it was honestly just a CGI cameo. I don't think it was an actual. I don't think Patrick Stewart was actually there, honestly, towards the end to supposedly lead these students away, which kind of would give a little bit of credence to, you know, how he got, you know, the X-Men together originally. But when Wolverine goes after, you know, Stryker, when he realizes he's been manipulated and all of this just so they could, you know, put, you know, adamantium in his body, you know, of course goes off on another revenge spree. You know, one thing that I thought was kind of funny was early on in the movie, it's shown that Sabretooth is actually physically a better fighter than Wolverine. You know, I mean, not only is he a little bit is he stronger, but just in general, he's the better fighter of the two. Later, unfortunately, there's a huge reversal in that Wolverine hasn't done anything to better his fighting abilities, yet all of a sudden he can easily outfight Sabretooth. Yeah, I mean, I know he's got the virtually indestructible skeleton now, but that doesn't instantly make him a better fighter. It may make it harder to beat him, but his skill level didn't go up any. And, of course, this makes it look like his skill level just shot through the roof. It's like, yeah, that... no. There's so many things I can say about this movie, and I'm kind of jumping all over the place about it. But, you know, after the rift between Sabretooth and Wolverine happens, which happens fairly early in the movie, they basically go to find... What you find out later is adamantium in this little African village somewhere. I know they go to Lagos, Nigeria, but then they also go to some unnamed, I should say, village, trying to find, you know, more of it, and you know, one thing leads to another, and Sabretooth, you know, starts killing people. And Wolverine just says, that's enough. I've had enough. You know, I'm out. You know, he leaves the group. And you find out later that Sabretooth starts hunting down the other members of the group, you know, and killing them. You know, and all of this helps lead up to them manipulating Wolverine into coming back and getting the adamantium placed on his bones. And as cool as that is, you know, it's, you know, I could go into and just say it's not how it happened in the comic books, but I also have to acknowledge it's movies. You know, this is a condensed version of a character that's been around now. Granted, he has not been around as long as Spider-Man, you know, the Fantastic Four, the Hulk, you know, a lot of those. He hasn't been around as long as them. He was made in the mid to late 70s. I can't, forgive me for not remembering the exact year, but I believe it was the late 70s. So he's still been around for quite a while, and you're trying to add all of his backstory into, or most, you know, a good chunk of his backstory, into one movie. And that's not that easy to do. It's not like Spider-Man where his origins are pretty much self-contained into one volume, and then you can, you know, kind of shoot off from there. Wolverine's, you know, bits and pieces of his story have been strung out for, you know, I'm 31 years old. I'm going to be 32 soon. And, you know, they've been telling little bits of his story since before I was born. You know, you don't, it's not like so many heroes where you get all of their backstory, or at least a good chunk of their backstory and their origin here. No, you get it, you know, it's little sprinklings throughout over a 30-plus year history. You know, and while that's not a bad thing, it does make summing it up in a movie much more difficult. So I can understand why they did some of them, and then other things like why they made Silver Fox a mutant. You know, why did certain other thing happen? Those things make no sense as far as you know, neither continuity wise nor even as far as the movie goes. You know, because anybody who knows Wolverine's backstory with Silver Fox is going to instantly go, dude, what? No, that's terrible. You know, and you know, anybody who knows, you know, Wolverine's backstory knows that he and Sabretooth are not brothers. You know, they never were. But once again, for the movie reasons, okay, I can kind of see it. Specifically because of X-Men 2, I can understand why they used Stryker as the character who, you know, gave Wolverine the adamantium, despite that being completely false as well. You know, despite all its flaws, I actually still enjoyed this movie. The biggest reason, and most obvious reason, being I wanted to see a Wolverine movie. You know, where now granted, the other X-Men movies were pretty, you know, focused around Wolverine, so I've heard a lot of people say that those were the Wolverine movies. And, you know, that's fine and all, but they didn't have any of his backstory, any of this other, you know. In fact, you know, this is called X-Men Origins Wolverine. Well, you know, a couple years before this came out, they actually had started a series called Wolverine Origins, which I had collected when I was actually collecting comic books for a while. That was one of the first. I had picked up a section of Wolverine comics called Origins and Endings, which led into the Wolverine Origins series, and I enjoyed that immensely. You get a lot of his backstory fleshed out, plus learning a lot of new, them being able to add a lot of things to the character. And in doing that, you know, some of those things ended up in the movie. Many of them didn't, obviously. And obviously they added a lot of things for the movie, whether they were necessary or not. So, despite all of that, I still enjoyed the movie. I thought that, you know, man, it entertained me. I really thought Hugh Jackman, once again, went all out, 110% to be Wolverine. He got in so much, physically, he really looked like Wolverine. I heard some people complain, it's like, well, Wolverine's supposed to be a small guy. He's only supposed to be like 5 feet 3 inches tall. And whereas Hugh Jackman he's about the same height as I am, about 6'2", roughly, 6'2", 6'3", something like that. But you look at him, and you look at him on the cover, and it's like, that's Wolverine. He really went over the top to sell this character. And I don't think they could have gotten anybody who could have done better. I really don't. There's so much I could say about this, and I'm going a little long-winded on this because I am kind of a fanboy for the character. It's a toss-up between Wolverine and the Hulk as to who my actual favorite characters are, and amusingly enough, the first time you ever see Wolverine was as a rival to the Hulk, because they thought, well, if we have a character who pretty much can't die fight the strongest character, how does that work, and anybody who knows that one knows, of course, the Hulk won the fight, but, he couldn't, you can't kill Wolverine, so it's, like I said, despite all of this movie's flaws, I still found it entertaining. And that's the key word here. One of my friends, you've seen him in one of my other reviews, The Man in Black, he always tells me, despite how bad a movie is, and he knows I can geek out about so many things, but despite however a bad movie is, if it's entertaining, then it's not that bad. And that's all I can say about this movie is it entertained me. It really did. Now this summer they're going to be releasing the second Wolverine movie, a standalone movie again, detailing his time in Japan. For once again, anybody who knows Wolverine's backstory knows that he spent a significant chunk of his life, while his memories were, while he couldn't remember his past, spent a significant chunk of his life in Japan. I can't wait to see how they do that story. And it's very, it's a very, well, I will just say interesting part in the comic books, because so many different things happen. There are a few different versions of what happened while he was there in the different comic books. But I really can't wait to see on screen what they do with his character in Japan. I'm kind of hoping that they go the route that that origins and endings went, but you know, that'll remain to be seen. You know, this is, you know, I guess I should probably say why is he one of my favorite characters, specifically Wolverine and the Hulk, are probably for the same reason. Because most of us, I think, want to lash out at times. And these are characters that do. And then when they lash out, Wolverine with his berserker rage and the Hulk literally becoming the Hulk, you know, when they lash out, that's, I think, what many of us would like to do. You know, we can't. But it's like they have this outward manifestation of how they feel on the inside. And I think most of us, at times, wish we had that. And I think that's why I like those characters so much. You know, we'll see what happens with this next movie. You know, I can't, no matter how many flaws, and I pointed out plenty of flaws in this one, I can't bring myself to hate Wolverine. And, it just, you know, it entertained me. Is it a good movie? I mean, it's okay. Is it a good or great movie? Probably not. No, I'll admit that. But it wasn't bad by any means. You know, there are so many things that are so much worse out there, and I'll be getting back to some of those in a little while. But you know, I still say it was okay. You know, if you're a fan of if you're a diehard fan, you know, yeah, you may not like it, you know, but I'm a diehard fan of Wolverine, and I still enjoyed it. So take it for what it's worth, you know. It's just my opinion, so until I see you guys next time, Speculative Dude, out.